Good morning. I'm the Reverend Julianne Lepp. It is a pleasure to be with you this morning. We will be holding virtual services through May of 2021. And this morning, you'll hear a variety of readings, including the story of the Christmas Truce, which describes how soldiers on opposite sides in World War I created a ceasefire at Christmas in 1914. Meeting for a moment in shared humanity in the midst of a bloody conflict. In the literal sense, Christmas can be a hard truce for many of us. The range of different understandings of Christmas will be plentiful among us. We come to this place from varied traditions and celebrate our shared journeys. Many Unitarian Universalist Christians understand Christmas as an opportunity to celebrate the gift of Jesus' life, compassion, example for living with courage and integrity, and a call to social justice. Whatever your path, I hope this morning you are inspired by the spirit of peace, love, and light. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. I'm Karen Hirsch, representing the membership committee of the UUC. Would you like to learn more about Unitarian Universalism and this congregation? Join Reverend Lepp and representatives of the membership committee at the New to UU class, which takes place in Zoom on January 9th at 9:30 a.m. That's a Saturday. Questions are welcome. Send a message to Reverend Julie or to Chris Deere if you'd like to be part of this class. Chris will send you the Zoom link. If you should decide to join the UUC, Our next joining day is January 17. We also encourage visitors to fill out a visitor form found on the UUC Facebook page or on today's chat column. You can indicate on this form if you're interested in signing up for our UU Connections so you can keep up to date on activities and get links for upcoming Zoom services.
Good morning. My name is Raisa Schnitzius. I am the board secretary. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation. We are a religious community who commit ourselves to diversity. We hope to nourish human differences, those of gender, race, age, ability, sexual orientation, political views, culture, class, and religious belief. Welcome to all who treasure freedom of conscience in the search for truth. We promise to do our best to provide you a spiritual home. We extend a special welcome to our visitors today. We hope you follow our Facebook page. To participate in Zoom and receive announcements about special events and our religious exploration classes, please sign up for our weekly email. There should be a link in the comment section of our Facebook page where you can sign up. Also, families can follow our UUC Religious Exploration Facebook page. There are religious exploration classes for 4K through 9th grade and youth group every Wednesday online for middle school and high school. We're so glad that you joined us today.
Good morning, I'm Debbie Campbell. I'm your worship associate this morning. We invite you to light your chalice at home with these words by David Breeden. In the weeks of the Advent season, the weeks of waiting, we have remembered patience. We have looked to light to dispel darkness. We have pledged to be, do, and seek peace. This week, we remember the foundation of all these things, love. In this holiday season, throughout the year to come, and always in our lives, may we know we are loved. May we share the love we have, and may we be the love we wish to see. I'll also be doing our first reading today, which comes from Maureen Killeran, A Christmas Prayer. Not gold, nor myrrh, nor even frankincense, what I have for you this season, but simple gifts, the ones that are hardest to find, the ones that are perfect, even for those who have everything, if such there be. I would, if I could, have for you the gift of courage, the strength to face the gauntlets only you can name, and the firmness in your heart to know that you, yes, you, can be a bearer of the quiet dignity that is the human glorified. I would, if by my intention I could make it happen, have for you the gift of connection, the sense of standing on the hinge of time, touching the past and the future, standing with certainty that you, yes, you, are the point where it all comes together. I would, if wishing could make it so, have for you the gift of community, a nucleus of love and challenge to convince you in your soul that you, yes, you, are a source of light in a world too long believing in the dark. Not gold, nor myrrh, nor even frankincense, what I have for you this season, but simple gifts, the ones that are hardest to find, the ones that are perfect, even for those who have everything, if such there be.
Good morning, I'm Kathy Pierce, and I have a reading, Hope is Currency by Alex Hayden Winnett. But first I'd like to read you the words to the song, The Atheist Christmas Carol by Vienna Ting. It is the season of possible miracle cures, where hope is currency and death is not the last unknown, where time begins to fade and age is welcome home. I grew up in Southern California, where December rarely gets below a crisp 45 degrees, and the outdoor malls put colored lights on the palm trees,
While TV and movies would depict the holidays as a cozy time for families to snuggle up and watch the snow while decorating their homes, I usually found it hard to get in the Christmas spirit. Maybe that's why my favorite songs for Christmas are about how it feels to be out of sync with others. When my friend introduced me to the Atheist Christmas Carol a few years ago, I rolled my eyes, but she urged me to listen to it, and I fell in love. The quiet piano, the beautiful lyrics, the simple message all makes me remember what I love about this time of the year without being saccharine. After all, there's nothing simple about the holidays. As the year starts to wind down, things seem to move faster and faster, and it's easy to let the rush get the best of you. Weekends can be booked with parties. Evenings are often spent doing shopping or preparing. When the sun is already set by the time you get off work, it can be very disheartening. The emphasis on being with friends and family can be challenging emotionally and spiritually. Joy can feel empty when it is compulsory. The promise of liberation is hard fought and well earned. In this time of lights in the darkness, warmth in the cold, and music in the silence, let us also remember to appreciate the dark, the cold, and the quiet, to celebrate by doing simple acts of kindness for one another, to recall that the sun will come again. In the meantime, we can be together in the complexity of it all. If you're struggling in this holiday season, you are not alone. Please reach out to someone for connection. It's possible they're struggling too. And don't forget, we love you. Joy can be fleeting, but love is real.
Joy can be fleeting, but love is real. I like that. And this is the time in our service where we do our joys and concerns. And normally, when we are together, people would come forward and light a candle, say their name. And now, how we do it here is I will share a joy or concern that you post here on Zoom in the chat, or if you post one on Facebook, I will also be happy to read that aloud. I invite you now, if you have any joys or concerns, to share those, and we'll have a time of silence as people share those concerns or joys. Reverend Virginia Woolf writes, tomorrow Carol and I will celebrate 45 years of being together, 30 years of being married in the church illegally, 11 years of being legal domestic partners, 7 of being married legally, and 6 years of being legally married in Wisconsin. And thank you to Reverend Wolf and Carol Schumacher for helping marriage equality happen in Wisconsin. Danny asked for healing thoughts for extended family suffering from COVID. We look to Debbie Campbell, who shares a joy. One of my dearest friends is a nurse and has her appointment for the COVID-19 vaccine scheduled in January. It is long awaited. And David Hirsch shares a joy again for the COVID vaccine, concerned that it will decrease people's precautions and actually make it worse for a time. I'd also like to share a concern for a dear friend of mine who is battling COVID pneumonia. This person has young children, and her partner also has contracted COVID. Ralph shares both a joy and a concern seeing family for the holidays. Yeah, it's a hard balance in this time. Teresa Ritzinger has a joy. My husband and I will be celebrating our 28th wedding anniversary this weekend, or this week. I also received news about our beloved UUC member Jack. He fell in his apartment. He is okay, but he ended up having to get a temporary hip replacement, or sorry, not temporary, a partial hip replacement, and we'll be doing rehab. No contacts at this time, but on Monday we'll share where to send cards and a little bit more news on how he's doing. One of his daughters will be coming into town. So we send a special light out to Jack as he heals. Any other joys or concerns this morning? If you'll please join me with the words found to close out joys and concerns. And finally, David Hirsch also shares a sadness for the loss of Ralph Hudson. I'll be doing Dr. Hudson's memorial service this afternoon, and it will stream from the website. A link will be found on Facebook, so it'll be at 2 p.m. We end our joys and concerns with these words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now we will be lifted up by a beautiful hymn by Anna, Angels We Have Heard on High.
Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria in excelsis Deo, Gloria in excelsis Deo. Shepherds, why this jubilee? Why these songs of happy cheer? What great brightness did you see? What glad tidings did you hear? Gloria in excelsis Deo, Gloria in excelsis Deo. See him in a manger laid, whom the angels praise above. Mary, Joseph, lend you aid, while we raise our hearts in love. Gloria in excelsis Deo, Gloria in excelsis Deo.
This reading is Angels We Can Hear by the Reverend Peter Edward Lanzalata. One of the most charming and enduring images of Christmas is that of angels. I know when I was little, my mom and dad used to call me the littlest angel, and they would lift me up and I'd put the angel in the tree, and it gave me quite a complex for quite a long time. I knew I was the littlest angel. So when the Unitarian minister Edward Hamilton Sears first wrote, "It came upon a midnight clear," just what do you suppose he felt when he penned those words to hear the angels sing? We received one of the best definitions of angels from the father of universalism, Origen of Alexandria, some 1600 years ago. He stated that angels were those servants and messengers of God given to all humanity for the purpose of our salvation. In more inclusive religious terms, we can restate this definition by saying that angels are those inspired thoughts and feelings that draw us closer to love, that assist us in transforming the ordinary into the sacred. Angels are those thoughts and feelings and experiences that create greater opportunities for wisdom, inspiration, awareness, and inner peace. The angels of the Christmas story point us towards revelation and fulfillment. Their message to us recognizes the creative and spiritual potential in every child, in each and every one of us. Now, it is true that the glorious message that they delivered that night was met with wonder, awe, surprise, and fear, quite understandably. Yet every time we read or listen to this timeless story of the Holy Night, we can lay aside those fears and feel enchanted by this story. The angels we have heard on high remind us perpetually of the gifts of love and light and the potential for us all. And now we will move into a story for all ages about the Christmas Truce by Debbie Campbell.
Hello again. The Christmas Truce by Gail Forsyth Vale. Excuse me. When the Great War, which we now call World War I, started in Europe, many young men were eager to fight. Just out of school, they joined up with their schoolmates to go off on an exciting adventure. War seemed glorious in the fall of 1914, when young men from the British Empire went to France to fight against the young men from the German Empire. It did not take long for new soldiers to discover the realities of war. Both sides dug trenches in the ground a few hundred feet from each other in France and in Belgium. Between the trenches was a flat open space called no man's land. Young men hid in the trenches day after day as gunfire came from snipers and artillery on one side or the other. To lift your head up out of a trench was to risk getting shot. Many soldiers were killed or wounded. When it rained, soldiers were trapped in muddy, wet trenches with the task of endless digging as they tried to keep ahead of the floodwaters. When winter approached, there was more and more rain, and the trenches of both the German army and the British army were wet, cold, miserable mud holes. As the soldiers huddled in their miserable trenches, they began to wonder about the enemy soldiers so close by. Bored soldiers shouted to each other back and forth between the trenches, calling names and taunting one another. Each side sang patriotic songs and folk songs to remind them of home. The two armies were close enough to hear one another's music. Always there was the rifles and the machine guns firing at any sign of movement outside the trench. Back home, people in Germany and Britain thought often of their soldiers. German families sent soldiers packages of gifts, letters, and photos. They also sent Christmas trees to the soldiers, who put them on top of the sandbags protecting the fronts of the trenches. The British saw all the Christmas trees and wondered if some kind of surprise attack was being planned. They watched and they waited. The British people also sent soldiers letters, candies, and gifts. Each one received a brass box embossed with a profile of Princess Mary of England. The box was full of cigarettes and had a card inside saying, "With best wishes for a happy Christmas and a victorious New Year, from the Princess Mary and friends at home." Christmas Eve arrived in 1914, and soldiers on both sides opened their packages in the muddy trenches and wished with all their hearts to be home again. They began singing carols and making merry as one can be in a trench, when something extraordinary happened. Someone began to sing Silent Night in German, or perhaps O Come All Ye Faithful in English. In any event, the soldiers on the other side joined the singing. The songs of the two armies, sung in two different languages, blended together in the starry night. Soon a German soldier emerged from the trench. Everyone held his breath, but no one fired. He had a sign that said, "Merry Christmas. We no shoot, you no shoot." It wasn't long before a British soldier made his way into no man's land, then another and another. Soon all the soldiers had climbed out of the trenches and were greeting one another, enemy again greeting enemy in the middle of no man's land. Officers tried in vain to forbid this from happening. Embodying the Christmas spirit of peace and goodwill, the men traded candies, swapped buttons from their uniforms, and showed one another pictures of their families back home. Someone even started a soccer game using an old ball and helmets to make the goalposts. The unplanned Christmas truce happened all along the 500-mile battlefront. Whether it lasted a few hours or a few days, it gave each man pause as he learned that the enemy was a human being like himself. It was a time when the spirit of love and joy reigned supreme, even in the midst of the battlefield.
We think about peace in this time of year, and yet often people don't feel as peaceful as we're supposed to feel. Maybe busy, worried about giving enough, being enough. And I think about this story and how divided our country is right now between parties, between different viewpoints and thoughts about how to move forward as a country together or not. And I think about the fact that these two warring parties, and World War I was horrific. There were so many things done against each other that later created treaties that we made to make war more humane, if you can call it that. And, you know, that German soldier standing up, you know, think about that act of courage. You know, if you don't shoot, we won't shoot. Merry Christmas. And it's hard. It's an act of vulnerability to reach out your hand and try and make peace. And in this time of COVID and separation and loneliness, what a more powerful time to do that, to try and extend that hand to yourself, to spend time looking at things in your life that need light, to look at the people in your lives that need light. You know, there's not much snow on the ground. Many of us are separated from our loved ones. So how can it still be Christmas? And I know that on the battlefield in 1914, that question must have been asked. How, in the midst of this horror, can we celebrate light and love and a miracle story of birth amidst hard circumstances? You know, being intentional in this time of year is a gift. You know, we have messages from our childhood traditions about how we should do things, the cookies we should bake, the things that we should do to be a good enough holiday, that we should have to do things a certain way. And yet rethinking, you know, what matters, I think has happened a lot in 2020. And here we are at the end almost of 2020. It is 12/20/20. I love that. And you know, I've been thinking a lot about you know, what is it that I've learned during this year, you know, this incredibly tough and difficult year. You know, what is the message of hope the message that comes out of these trenches of where we're apart from each other, and where we each day, pray, hope that our loved ones, that our own family will be safe from a pandemic that we can't um, get our mind around sometimes. What is it that will light the darkness, that will light the fear? And I think a lot of that is kindness, and being gentle with ourselves during this time. The wise men and the story of the birth of Jesus are not that different from our own quest to find what is holy. We look for signs and search for hope in times of despair. Yet we don't have to beat paths through the desert like in ancient stories where you go out into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. You don't necessarily have to go sit on a mountaintop with a guru. Perhaps wisdom speaks in your NPR podcast, or perhaps wisdom speaks as we listen to Anna Rabicki sing, "Angels we have heard on high." That there's a resonance that happens in our hearts when we sing or when we open to music. There's a resonance with silence. Starting our Sundays during this pandemic with a meditation at 8:30 a.m. has been incredibly profound for me, and a chance during the week to just center down into something that feels sacred and held. And just being in this community, I had no idea what Zoom services would feel like. I was like, oh, not another meeting. But there's something magic that happens when we gather and we commit ourselves to that sense of community and held love. Growing up in the Episcopal Church, I had a very predictable holiday schedule on Christmas Eve, family traditions around stockings and trees and food. And when I left that childhood tradition, I was left with a lot of conflicted feelings about Christmas. I wanted to celebrate solstice, the holiday of light, but I also wanted to feel the awe and mystery of that incense and doing the different candles. And so I think many of us who have evolved into different understandings and continue to be on a spiritual journey can have mixed feelings about this time of year. Maybe the holidays seem like a bunch of stress and about material goods and commercials. Like I hope that you can find a way to let some of that go, if you haven't already. Right now we are looking for signs of hope. We are looking for the magical, looking for meaning, and I hope that we can also look for a little bit of mistletoe. I don't know about you, but I accidentally left mistletoe hanging up all year long. And I've heard people say that they're going to leave their lights up all year long, all during the winter. And I don't blame you. This whole neighborhood is so lit up with light, I can't believe it. And before I would have said, that's light pollution. Right now, I don't, I'm a big proponent of the environment, but right now, man, I need a little light. And so my tree's lit up. And in the summer, I will encourage people to turn off their porch lights so we can have our fireflies. But right now, I need a little light. And it's been a joy to drive around and walk around our neighborhood and see just putting that joy out there. And no matter what we believe, I have a neighbor that has, Christ is the reason for the season across the street. And I didn't put up my, soul is the reason for solstice, or like happy Eid, just in response. I'm like, great, that's, have your light. I'm going to have my light. Our neighbor who celebrates Diwali will have their light. And, I think that's really what we need. We need, sometimes we trigger into those responses, and how can we be like that soldier who stood up and said, you know what? Merry Christmas, Merry Happy Holidays, Happy Diwali, Happy Eid, happy what you celebrate because I'm honoring you. And in that, maybe they will honor you. You know, maybe they will understand that you are coming from a place of community and light. And maybe those that feel like the enemy can become a fellow human being. And that's what's been incredibly hard, so incredibly hard in these divided times where, you know, politics seems so personal, and it is, because sometimes it attacks people's identity and people's religion and who they are, and has put people in danger. But at some point, we have to reach across the trenches and try and shake hands again. And it feels vulnerable and risky. And it's risky. But we can't stay in our silos, you know, whether it's religion or politics or family or whatever it is that divides us. We are one humanity. You know, we share the same breath with Donald Trump as we do with you know, Joe Biden. We share the same breath with scientists and people who don't recognize science. We we share the same breath with so many people because we're on this little blue ball. It's a tiny little blue ball in the midst of a big universe. And there are billions and billions of stars. I wish I could say billions and billions of stars like they do on some of the documentaries. And, you know, I find hope in that, knowing that we are on this little planet together. And the way that I know that it is still Christmas, still the holidays, and that there is still light is because I see little acts of hope. You know, I see these signs of mistletoe. In South Carolina, I would go looking in my pine forest. When I was a little girl, we had the woods behind my house I've talked about. And I was sure I would find mistletoe. I would go look everywhere. I never found it because usually it's with oak. But, you know, I knew that the Druids would lead a procession into the forest and that they would find this sacred plant, and magic was associated with it. Even when I was a little girl, I knew that there was magic in mistletoe, and you might get a kiss too. It's very magical. Magic is found in so many places. It's found in the united voices of those fighting injustice and the wonder of a child walking in first snow. I can't wait to see all these babies that I haven't met yet. I can't wait to let the joy of seeing people sing together again. You know, there's magic in the videos that people have created, like David Hirsch put together this beautiful choir piece. And maybe you're not making the cookies that your mother made. Maybe you're not able to gather as you do and have breakfast together, or whatever it is that makes it feel like the holiday. But let us rekindle the light in ourselves and one another. Let's celebrate the joy and know that even in the hardest of times, we can stand up and say, Merry, happy holiday, happy, happy, whatever it is, because there is light in the world. There's light in us, and even in the people that we see across the trench, there is light in there somewhere. We are all on quest of mistletoe and magic, and I hope you will be able to follow the star and find what is holy. I'm going to close today with the words of Reverend Victoria Safford. Now is the moment of magic, when the whole round earth turns again toward the sun. And here's a blessing. The days will be longer and brighter now, even before the winter settles in to chill us. Now is the moment of magic, when people beaten down and broken, with nothing left but misery and candles in their own clear voices, kindle tiny lights and whisper secret music. And here's a blessing The dark universe is suddenly illuminated by the lights of the menorah, suddenly ablaze with the lights of the Kinara, and the whole world is glad and loud with winter singing. Now is the moment of magic, when an eastern star beckons the ignorant towards an unknown goal. And here's a blessing. They find nothing in the end but an ordinary baby, born at midnight, born in poverty, with a baby's cry like bells ringing. It makes people wonder as they wander through their lives what human love might really look like, sound like, feel like. Now is the moment of blessing and magic. We already possess all the gifts we need. We've already received our presence, ears to hear music, eyes to behold lights, hands to build true peace on earth, and to hold each other tightly in love. Amen, and blessed be. Now is the time in our service where we share of our own gifts with one another. You can support the work of this congregation by donating online at uueauclair.com. You can also text to give at 84321. And our 50-50 Share the Plate this month is the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee that helps those in need in disaster and times when it is needed. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Thank you so much.
That was beautiful. I'll invite you to extinguish your chalice with me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Elizabeth Seeley Jones.
For those of you watching in our Facebook live stream, I'm so glad that you joined us today. If you'd like to get more information on how to join services in Zoom, there are links to do that. You can fill out the visitor link. Those attending in Zoom will take a brief moment after service to share more joys and concerns that might not have been named during the service, and then we'll move into our breakout rooms. I'm still moved by that music, so I'm trying to get myself together here. The sound of Silent Night was heard across those trenches that night when they had the Christmas truce. And I hope that you will carry that music with you as you try and find peace. And we invite folks to mute too during this time, please. So I'm going to close our service this morning with one of my favorite theologians, Howard Thurman. He was a leading African-American minister, a mystic, a prophet to the People's Church in San Francisco. He said, "I place my gifts on the altar this Christmas, gifts that are mine as the years are mine, the quiet hopes that flood the earnest cargo of my dreams, the best of all good things for those I love, a fresh new trust for all whose faith is dim, the love of life, a most precious gift to reach us all, seeing in the acts of each day the seeds of tomorrow, finding in the struggle the strength for renewal, seeking in each person the face of kinship. I place these gifts on my altar this Christmas, gifts that are mine as the years are mine. Amidst all this whirl and activity, may this Christmas bring you to your heart's altar, there to receive a sustaining grace, the gifts of renewal and healing, the gifts of stillness and peace, before you set out again to follow your star. When the song of angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and the princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins, to find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among people, and to make music in the heart. This is my fervent thought and prayer for this world, that we will make peace in our hearts and find ways forward. Go in peace and go in love. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.